What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. We are here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is a new year, Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. First podcast of the year, but many more to come. I'm Christopher Drummond. I'm a sports reporter based out of Minnesota, also sports broadcast as well, and started this podcast as well, Work Hard, Play Harder. Definitely have a lot of episodes in and look forward to many more episodes with wonderful more guests, learning about them, learning about their why, and learning about different occupations and just connecting with brilliant people in the media industry, journalism industry, and so forth and so on. I do have a special guest coming on here. She is a graduate of Oakland University, went to Macomb Community College, has been a news producer for the last 6 years for Wtol 11 and Fox 36 out there in Toledo, Ohio. So we're going to learn about her why into journalism, learn about her as a person, learn about how she deals with things through the industry. So without any further ado, I bring to you the talented, the wonderful Megan Hojnacki.
Hi.
Hello, Megan. How we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, doing wonderful. Just wanted to say thank you for hopping on my podcast. I really do appreciate it. And want to ask you, how was your New Year's? How did you bring it in?
30 since I had to work the next morning, but it was good. It was low key and just found it relaxing, which I think is good.
That is awesome to hear, no doubt about it. I know there's a lot in store for you for 2024, and myself as well. Before I start peppering you with questions, let me reiterate the why I wanted you to be on this podcast. So, again, my podcast is called Work Hard, Play Hard. Right? It's kind of how I live my life. I love to work hard. I love to play hard, and I also love getting to know people in the journalism industry because I'm a journalist myself, being in the genre of sports and covering high schools and covering the college out here based in Minnesota. I love talking to different people in different journalism type of roles. I know you're a news producer and been that for the past 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, at Wtol 11 and Fox 36 out there in Ohio. So I love
Yep.
to hear from obviously with producers, they're behind the scenes, not really in front of the cameras a whole lot. But at the same time, I love to hear people's journeys and stories of how they came into the media. So that's why I wanted you to come on here, talk to you, break some bread with you, and hear your journey and your story. So once again, I thank you and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you.
No doubt, no doubt. So without any further ado, I'll get into it. I want you to tell me your why into journalism, right? That's my number one question. I always start off with the podcast. What is your why into journalism? Did you have role models growing up watching TV, or did you have who inspired you? I should say, or did you have any role models growing up?
So my parents are a big part of my journey, and they introduced me to news and media at a very young age. I can remember, my dad coming home from work, mom getting dinner ready, and we'd all sit at the table and we'd watch the news and see what was going on in the community during that day and during that week. Um, and when I was younger, I created the Hojnacki headline, which was this little like makeshift newspaper. And I'd assign my mom, you're going to write recipes and do the cooking, article. And dad, you'll cover sports. And I was giving my family all of these assignments. And my sister
Right,
was like, are you crazy? I have homework that I got to do for school. Why do I want to do homework for you?
right.
So I've always loved the news and information and telling stories since I was little, and I'm an avid reader. still to this day. And so that kind of spurred my journey into the news business.
I like that. Wow. So you was already giving direction early on in your age, huh? Of what
Yes.
what you want everybody to do. That's pretty cool. I like that. Now,
Yeah.
you went to college first at Macomb Community College, and then you transferred to Oakland University, which is in Michigan. Is
Yes.
that where you grew up?
Yes. So I was raised in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which is a half hour away from Detroit. So
Okay.
you've got the big news scene. It's a big market. You've got all the Detroit teams. Go Tigers. um, and so I started off at Macomb, and I actually stayed there a little bit longer than like the 2 years you're supposed to, um, because I was so close to getting a second associate's degree. And my mom looked at me because I was like, "Well, I'm done with the associates in mass media. Why do I want to get an associate's degree in public relations?" And she's like, "Meg, you are this close to having this second degree.
Okay.
You are staying there, you're getting this second degree." So I got 2 associate's degrees from Macomb, and
Cool.
that set me up for the bachelor's of communications at Oakland.
All right.
And my sister and I would get in the car and we drive the 20 minutes, half an hour up Hull Road and M59 and drive to school. And we'd sit in our class. She was, in the public health building, and I was in the communications building. And then we'd drive home. And that kind of, my 2 degrees I got from community college set me up to succeed in the 4-year university and getting my bachelor's.
Were there any other schools out there that could have persuaded you to go to their university outside of Oakland University?
It's funny. I considered going to a couple of schools in Ohio, and because my mom had gone through, my sister and her going off to college. And my sister's older, that she was like, "Megan, you're a homebody. I think if you go to a 4-year university somewhere away from home, you're going to be so homesick, and I don't think you're going to do very well. I think we should start you off small. And after you're done at Macomb, if you want to go to a 4-year university somewhere further away from home, you can look into that and you can do that." But what I wanted to do and the opportunities, I think Oakland set me up a little bit better and had a better program for where I was at the time.
I like that. Okay. Okay. Now that means that did you apply to any of what was the school that you applied to in Ohio? You don't mind me asking.
Um, at this point, I don't remember what school it was. I know it wasn't University of Toledo or Bowling Green, or
Okay.
it,
Okay.
it might have been Kent. Is Kent State in Ohio?
Yep. Yep.
Yep. It might have been Kent State, but I didn't actually apply. I think I printed out the application, but my mom was like, "Hey, that's a lot of money. We've gone through stuff with your sister. I think you would be better just
Sure.
coming and commuting from home." And that's
That's
what I did.
awesome.
And it saved me money. I didn't have to pay, for room and board or an apartment or anything. My parents didn't ask me to pay rent or anything. So I was able to focus on work and focus on school.
That is awesome. Now I do have to ask this bonus question. How do you say your last name so I don't butcher it?
It's Hojnacki. It's very Polish.
Hojnacki. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You are definitely the first one I've ever met with that last name. That is absolutely for sure. No question.
Well, it's a very common Polish last name, so I'm surprised you haven't met one or two of us before.
No, but I like it though. I like it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I like to ask some favorite questions on here, Megan. So basically, you just give me some of the answers of the favorite questions that I have, and we'll roll with that. Are you with me?
I am.
All right, here we go. Favorite meal you like to cook?
Steak and pasta.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Now, what kind of steak you like to cook? You know, there's ribeye, sirloin, pepper steak. What kind of steak you like to cook?
I usually do sirloin, but anything that I can get my hands on, I'm a pretty decent griller.
Oh, okay. Now we might be good friends, Megan. I'm just trying to tell you. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Minnesota
Okay.
ain't far from Ohio.
Absolutely. I know that's right. Okay. Favorite concert you've ever attended?
Um, my parents and I went to Matchbox 20 at the Toledo Zoo, and
Okay.
that was actually pretty cool to see. Um, Second favorite would be Ed Sheeran in Detroit.
Absolutely. Two great artists. Rob Thomas, lead singer for Matchbox 20, one of my favorites. No question about that. Can't go wrong with Ed Sheeran. I mean, he's phenomenal. There's no question about that. I would
Yes.
probably say one of my favorite concerts is the Watch the Throne tour. Jay-Z and Kanye.
Okay.
Doing
Very
that
cool.
one was pretty good. Drake and Lil Wayne was a close second, though. That was really good too. Those two together was awesome, no doubt about that. Okay, I like that. Favorite place you've ever traveled to?
I would say that's a tie
Okay,
between Chicago. My two cousins had an apartment in Chicago, and we would go and hop in the car and drive the 6+ hours from Michigan to Chicago, and stay with them almost every summer for, a good 5 or 6 years. And recently in June, I went to Portland, Oregon, and I visited my friend Lucy. And the terrain is so much different than what I'm used to here in the Midwest, and the
sure.
elevations. And it was just beautiful and gorgeous to visit in the summer.
That's awesome. I like that. Chicago and Portland. Yes, got family in Chicago, so very familiar with the city of Chicago. Have yet to go to Portland, but I've heard a lot of good things about that place. So that's definitely on my bucket list for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I like that.
If you ever get the chance to go, you definitely should.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Here we go. Two more of the favorites. Favorite sport. This is a two-part question. Favorite sport you like to attend in person? Favorite sport you like to watch on TV?
Favorite sport I like to attend in person is baseball. I'm a
Okay.
huge Detroit Tigers fan. And growing up, my dad worked for a company that had like season tickets, and their tickets were right behind the Tigers dugout.
Yeah.
And I always liked going when Justin Verlander wasn't pitching, because he would sit there and he would throw you a ball. And I have like two or three balls because he threw them up to me and caught them. And so I like going and watching baseball in person. And I like watching hockey on TV.
Yeah, you know what? I totally understand that. Last year, so I'm from California originally, right? So I've been a Padres fan. I'm from San Diego, and I grew up a Padres fan. And going to that park meant a lot to me. The Padres got a chance to play the Tigers last year, and they didn't come to Minnesota. I saw them in Minnesota this year, this past season. But a couple seasons ago, they went to Detroit, and I went to Detroit for the first time, and that's a beautiful park. I marked that off, and it was nice. I
Yeah.
just took a trip out there. It was a solo trip. I was like, I'm happy. I want to see something different. One of my things, Megan, is I want to see all 32, or I should say 30 ballparks, and I've seen 15 of them so far. So I want to be able to see the rest of the 15 too. So that's one of my bucket list things for sure. I like that,
Very
and
cool.
hockey as well. Hockey,
Yeah.
I love hockey as well.
Yeah. I worked in radio for a while,
Okay,
and here in Toledo, and I would run the audio board for the Walleye game, which is the ECHL team here in Toledo.
right.
And so I would pop the game on as I was running the audio board and running the commercials, and watch what was going on as the announcers were commentating on the game.
Sure.
And just think it's very fun to sit there and watch hockey and watch all the fights. And, it's a better, I think, sport to watch on TV than it is when you're in person.
Oh yeah, no question about that. And I know you guys got a new red winger in Patrick Kane, which is so weird because he played for the Chicago Blackhawks for so long. For him to be a Detroit Red Wing player, he's one of my favorites. For those of you that don't know who Patrick Kane is, he's Superman of the NHL. A lot of people call him Superman. So he's somebody who is a pretty prominent player in this league for sure. Um, Once again, got Megan Hojnacki on here on my podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder. And we're just talking about her why and talking about some favorite things. We're wrapping up favorite things with this last favorite question is favorite restaurants.
Ooh, that is a good question.
Thank you very
Um,
much.
Favorite restaurant here in Toledo would be the original Tony Paco's on Front Street. They're famous for their Hungarian hot dogs and their food. And what's really cool about the original location is when celebrities come into town, they have them sign the hot dog bun and they display them up on the wall in the restaurant. So it's cool to walk around and say, oh, Burt Reynolds was the first one to sign a hot dog here at Tony Paco's. Oh, look, there's, Steve Martin, and see all of these people that have come and visited and signed a bun. Um, and then in Michigan, I would say my favorite restaurant would be J. Baldwin's. They've got a ton of different drinks, and their pizzas are all really, really great. And it's just a cool atmosphere to be in and great food.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm a huge pizza guy. I'm pepperoni, but meat lovers too, / meat lovers. What kind of pizzas do you like?
I like supreme pizzas, and I'm probably going to offend you with this, but I say pineapple does go on pizza.
Actually, that's a good. I like pineapple. I just never tried it on a pizza, but I do like pineapple, and that you're not the first one to tell me that. I have family members that love pineapple on pizza. Some family members don't, but it's always a 50-50 thing with that. But yeah, absolutely. I love
Yeah.
that. Okay. Let's talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis, right? You're a news producer. So what do you do? What is a day for you like getting up in the morning? Take me through it. And also, what role that you've had in your career that has had the most impact on you and why?
So, day to day, from my standpoint as a producer, I produce the 5 p.m. newscast on WTOL, which is the CBS station. We also have Fox 36 as well. And so I get in at 9 a.m. and we have our editorial meeting, which is where managers, reporters, producers, and we have photographers and digital people come in, and we say, okay, what's weather like for the day? All right, what's trending on digital? What's doing well for us on digital? And they'll go through the top couple of stories that are really, taking off online for us. And then our reporters are supposed to come with 3 pitches for the day. And it's better if a reporter comes to us and says, I've already got so and so lined up, and this is who I'm going to reach out to and talk about, and this is the story that I've worked out and want to do today. It's hard for a producer and a manager to tell you, no, you can't do that story when you've already got the legwork going and you've already got most of it set up.
Right. Absolutely.
So once the reporters make their pitches, we say, okay, Michael, you're going to cover this story you pitched. Laura, you're going to cover this story that you pitched. And once we get done with our meeting, reporters hit the ground running and go start making their calls and going out and getting their footage and their interviews and the things that they need. Us producers split who's going in what show and what format they'll be covering. So if Michael's going to do a development package at 5, he'll do a VOSAT on the same story in the 6 p.m. show. Or if Laura's going to cover gas prices and her package is at 6, she'll do a VOSAT for me at 5. And we divvy up and kind of make sure that the way we're covering the story is different and that content is a little bit different between the 5 and the 6. So once we do all of that, I go back to my desk and I start putting in all of the reporter stuff and looking for all of the local content. Like today, I ran a story about how the city of Toledo is looking for companies that do lawn care service to put in bids to mow the lawns for the city of Toledo.
Okay.
So I put that story in. And so anything local, I try and put in my A block and my E block, because the E block is your 5:30, which is, the start of kind of a new show, but it's still the same show, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And then I kind of search for your national stories, like the Israel and Hamas war and,
Right.
Your Red Sea stories. And, the Japan earthquake was really big this week. And so I've been putting in stories about that. I look for consumer stories. I look for health stories, things that your typical viewer at 5, who are your people getting off of work, your parents, the older generation are tuning in at 5 and 6, and you geared your stories towards them and what they are interested in and what they care about. And then once I have my whole show filled and stacked with content, I work from the bottom up and start writing all of the stories. And so I do that up until about 4:15. And then my anchors get in, start reading, ask me questions if they have them, or say, hey, I think we need to move this around or that around, and give me, their feedback and their input. And then at 4:50, I head into the control room, make sure all of our reporter live shots are up and ready to go. And then from 5 until 6, I'm in the control room, timing out the show, making sure if there's breaking news, we get that in, just making sure that everything goes as smooth as possible.
Okay. Now, how many producers like yourself is it? Because I know that's a lot for one producer to be doing all day long, for sure. So how many producers is it?
So we have a producer to do the CBS morning shows and a producer to do the Fox morning shows.
Sure.
And an associate producer to help write everything, and an executive producer. And then dayside, we have me, Alexis, and Haley. Alexis does our 4, I do our 5, and Haley does our 6. And then we have our 10 p.m. producer and our 11 p.m. producer.
Awesome. I like that. Now, obviously, you do a great job in doing news producing. You've been doing it for a lot of years. Has there ever been any kind of inkling to go in front of the camera? Because this is stuff that we always do. In college, we do everything, right? Like you said, radio, we try everything to see what we like and what we don't like. Have you ever wanted to step in front of the camera?
I, at one point, wanted to be a radio personality and be on your airwaves. And I had a colleague who I was sending demo tapes and stuff to try and get on the air. And he told me, he was like, you don't really have the voice or the personality to do the radio job, but what you excel at is behind the scenes and producing, and you need to stick with that and work on that. And he was kind of a jerk about the way he said it, but I valued that he was so blunt, so straightforward and honest with me, because up until that point, I'd had so many people saying, just keep sending me stuff, just keep sending me stuff. You'll get there, you'll get there. And no one took the time to say, hey, this isn't your strong suit, but this is, pursue that. And because of him, I wound up at the TV station and I worked my way up. And now I'm producing our 5 p.m. show. And so I have him to thank for that.
Oh, no question. I mean, sometimes, it sounds harsh the way sometimes people come off with it with their tone and the way they say things. But the intention may not be as harsh, right? And like you said, you took those words of just criticism, but it was honest. Like, this is how I feel with what you're sending me and what you're doing, and you are excelling in what you do. But I know I love asking that question to producers because I always want to ask them, hey, do you want? Producers always would love to go in front of the camera at some point. Most producers do, and then some producers are like, no, I don't really want to be in front of the camera at all. I don't want the camera on me. I'm good behind the scenes. So I love asking that question for sure. Which leads me into the next question I have, which is about mental health and work-life balance. Now, as you know, Megan, when you work in this industry, as I do as well, sports are evenings and weekends. You work a 9 to 5, 9 to 6 kind of job, but even with that, like you said, you have breaking news. Sometimes the hours get a little bit crazy, right? So our work-life balance is really thrown off at times. And mental health is really important. It's starting to become more important now, more so than ever. Talk about some of the things you do to kind of keep your mental health stable, and also talk about how you balance your work-life balance.
So I enjoy reading. So first thing when I get up, I make my coffee and I sit in my chair and I'll sit there and I'll read for, an hour, 45 minutes, whatever time I get up, and I'll listen to an audiobook in the car. And I do that on my way in and I do that on my way home. And so reading is my escape from the stress of life, the stress of the job. And that helps me to kind of ease into my day and relax at the end of the night. So I like doing that. And so one of the things that I try to do when you talk about work-life balance
Sure.
is when I clock out for the day and I go home, I try and not answer emails, Teams messages. I try and unplug myself from the industry and from, work. And when I wake up in the morning, I try and not check any of that stuff until I get to work. And on the weekends, I do very much the same thing. And I try and leave my work at work when I come home. And I think that helps. It's not always easy to do and it can be very hard, but I
Yeah.
think in the long run that definitely helps. And when I first started in the business, I'd be checking all of these messages, I'd be answering emails, I'd be answering people, and they'd tell me, Megan, why are you answering me? You're off the clock. Like, that'll wait until tomorrow. And so I really try and keep myself from checking all of that stuff, and because that just creates anxiety and stress that you don't need when you're supposed to be at home relaxing and spending time with your family and your loved ones.
Absolutely agree. Like I said, it's a question worth asking. A lot of people, especially graduates, new graduates, come in, and sometimes they kind of see people on TV as far as anchors and journalists and people just in the journalism type role, and they think that it's easy or glamorous, and it's not really all that glamorous. You really got to have boundaries that you set for yourself, like you said, with shutting off and unplugging. Like, it's very hard to do so sometimes. When you come home, you answer those emails, and then you're like, man, where has the time went? Like, right, you got home at 6, you're answering emails, all of a sudden it's 10. It's like, oh my goodness, where's the time flown by? Right? And you just want to unplug because you gotta, instead of be Megan the producer, you gotta be Megan the US citizen, right? Megan I gotta do this around the house. I gotta have my personal time. Me, myself, I like to work out. I like to write poetry. I like to go to games. I mean, I know I cover sports, but I love actually attending games and watching games on TV and just having a cold one and just relaxing. So, and also for me, I also like talking differently about another subject. You know, when you do sports and watch sports all the time, I like to be able to have different conversations about different stuff at times, you know, because sometimes it can be just too much. It's like, man, I'm more than just sports now. You know what I mean? So that's what I like to do as far as mental health and work life balance, set boundaries for myself as well. So I totally understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with that being said, though, we're going to get into this or that. Now, this or that, Megan, is basically me throwing two things at you and you choosing one or the other. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Popeyes or KFC?
KFC.
Okay, I like that. You said that fast too. I like that. Okay. I'm a Popeyes guy. I'm just not going. I'm a Popeye, but KFC is good too. I want to say that. I'm not down in KFC, but Popeyes is my thing. Okay, here we go. Do you eat chicken wings?
Yes.
Okay. Lemon pepper or barbecue chicken wings?
Barbecue.
Okay. Do you like your wings bone in or boneless?
Bone in.
Okay, so you like to get a little messy, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, these next three questions have to do with music artists. Okay, which concert would you rather attend in person? Would you rather attend a Carrie Underwood concert or Zach Brown band?
Zach Brown band.
Okay, all right. I like that. I like that. You was decisive on that one too. Okay, next concert. Which one would you rather attend? Okay, would you rather attend a Breaking Benjamin concert or would you rather attend a Limp Bizkit?
Breaking Benjamin.
Okay, okay. Do you like that band?
I've heard a few songs more so than Limp Bizkit, which is why I went with them.
Okay, I feel it. I feel it. Okay, here we go with the other music one. Which concert would you rather attend, J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar?
Kendrick Lamar.
I like that. Okay, I would too, by the way. I'm with you on Kendrick. I love me some Kendrick Lamar, no doubt. Okay, which sport would you rather play, bowling or badminton?
Badminton.
Oh, wow. Okay, that tells me something. So you're not a good bowler?
No.
Okay, you don't need to use the bumpers, do you?
Yes, yes, I do.
Oh, Megan. Oh, Megan. Okay. All right. Well, that's one thing we can't do. I understand that. That's cool. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. Okay. All right. Here's the next question is, which place would you rather visit again? Would you rather go to Michigan or Illinois?
Illinois.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I like that. I like that. Which food would you take off of this list? Okay, and there's four foods I'm gonna name. You got to take one off the list that you can't eat anymore. Okay, and this is a sweets, so it's gonna be pies, it's gonna be cupcakes, honey buns, or donuts. Which one are you taking off the list that you just cannot eat anymore?
Honey buns.
Wow, I'm shocked. I am shocked on that one. I definitely thought you would say donut because honey buns is my favorite on that list. I definitely can't take that one off, but I like that. Okay, honey buns. All right. I like that. We got two more for the this or that. This is another music one. Okay. Which concert would you rather pay to go see? Beyonce or Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift.
Wow. Megan, you have been very decisive on this one. It's like no breaking you at all on these questions. I love that. I love it. Okay, that doesn't mean you love. It doesn't mean you dislike Beyonce, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, okay. I just want to make sure. Just want to make sure. All right. Here's the last one. Last one for this or that. When it comes to steaks, and I know we talked about it before, which steak would you rather make? Would you rather make a ribeye or a porterhouse?
Porterhouse.
Oh, so okay, so you really like steak then? You that's your thing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Can you eat a full porterhouse steak?
Not all by myself.
I figured that. I can't either. I can't either. I understand. You did pretty good on this or that. I like that. Okay. So this next question has to do with if you wasn't doing or you wasn't a news producer or in the journalism spectrum, what would Megan be? What would Megan pursue as a career and why?
Uh, I always, my mom always told me that I should be a physical therapist because I'm a very kind-hearted soul and I like helping people.
Okay.
But being a physical therapist requires a lot of science and a lot of math. And as most journalists are, we're not great at science and math.
Right.
So when I failed AP biology in college, I was like,
Right.
okay, nope, not for me.
Okay.
We're gonna go do this.
I totally understand that. You made a business decision and you made the right business decision, Megan. That's for sure. And you're right. Most journalists are not good at science or math. I would say math is actually one of my strong suits, but I deal with sport. So when you deal with sports, you deal with points and innings with baseball. And deal with all kind of numbers in sports. So that's good. But science, you right on that. Ain't no way in hell I would want to be anything near science. I'm good. I'm good with that. So you're absolutely right. Okay. So I want to ask you, what piece of advice has someone gave you that you hold dearly to your heart? And this is a two-part question because I also want to say, what advice would you give someone that wants to join the journalism business? Whether doesn't matter what role it is, what advice would you give them?
Okay. So the best piece of advice I've ever gotten comes from my dad, and he will fully take credit for this. But he told me that if you find a job you love, you will never work a day in your life.
Mm,
And thankfully, I have found the job that I love. And so going into work every day, day in and day out, doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like, hey, I get to go produce the show and work with these amazing people. So that is the best piece of advice that I have ever been given. And if I were to give budding journalist advice, I would say not only be persistent and follow your dreams,
mm.
but you also need to yourself keep your head on your shoulders and keep realistic expectations going in, because this business is very hard, it's very competitive, and
Yes, it is.
it takes you a while to get to where you are, where it took me a long time to get to where I'm at. And so a lot of journalists that I talk to that are, getting ready to graduate from college are like, man, I want to be a reporter so bad. I want to work my way up to be an anchor. I want to be on TV. And those jobs are all well and good, and they are very important in the grand scheme of things, because without a
Sure.
reporter, without an anchor, I wouldn't have my show. I wouldn't have anybody to read the news and to do what we do every day.
Sure.
But it is so competitive to land that reporter job, to land that anchor job. And you don't get it in your first market. You may not get it in your second market, so you might have to start off doing something that you didn't think that you would want to do or didn't think that you would do.
Right.
So I try and tell young kids in this business to not downplay your producing jobs. Don't downplay your photographer and editor jobs, because each part of the machine that is news is important in its own aspect.
Right.
I wouldn't have video for my show if I didn't have photographers and I didn't have editors. I
Right.
wouldn't have, you know, a show if I don't have talent to put that show on. I wouldn't have my show if I don't have engineers running the cameras, the audio system, directing. Each part has their role to play in putting on a newscast, and they're all really super important.
I love that. I really do. And you gave some terrific answers on this podcast episode, and that's really a really good answer. To piggyback off that, even to add a couple more, I came into this business, I would say about almost 4 years ago. It'll be 5 years this year now with 2024. But I started in Atlanta when I was just doing sports corresponding. I was doing writing and going to games, interviewing coaches, getting quotes, interviewing players and stuff like that for sports. One of the things I didn't realize coming into it was that there's so many different roles. Like you talked about a well-oiled machine. I didn't realize how many roles it was in this journalism machine. Like there's a lot of different roles that you can do, and not just within news or sports or entertainment or just all sorts of genres. And there's even not even with those, there's corporations, there's companies, there's teams. There's just so many different things. So never just settle on one thing. You should always have your options open to be able to kind of explore, right, into that. I love the fact that you talked about you'll never work a day in your life if you find what you love. And that is a great quote. Shout out to your dad, Mr. Hojnacki. I love that. I really do, because he's absolutely right. I love doing journalism, and you will have to love it to do it, because the money is not going to be there when you first start out. It may not be there for a while. And I always tell, especially graduating college people, three things. One, always take a visit. Now, I don't know if you did this or not, but I tell people, take a visit to where you're going to go. If you've never been there, you should definitely take a visit. See your surroundings, meet your coworkers if you have that opportunity to do so. I think the second thing that I would do is you always want to be able to give yourself a little bit of time. Some companies like to have you start right away. To me, that's a red flag, because one, you got to be able to find a place. You got to be able to move. And sometimes most of the time, it's not realistic to start right away, because number one, you want to give your former employer a couple weeks in advance. That's what you want to do. So if you are trying to start right away, there's no way you're going to be able to start in 2 weeks. You got to at least give it, I would say, a month, and then be able to move at least minimum a month, maybe even a little bit more. We moved, you met your coworkers, you did all that, and now you give it some time, right? And then the last thing that you want to do is the pay scale. And the reason why I say we talked about money not being there, but you definitely don't want to be making top ramen every day. You want to be able to live a little, you want to be able to live okay, to the point where you're not struggling to where you eating top ramen and sandwiches all the time. You want to be able to be fair pay. And that's tough to do at times, because when you're so eager to break into this business, the first offer you get, you jump at. And right, that's not always going to be the best offer sometimes for you. So you definitely got to get that right. And I don't know if you would agree with that, but those are the three things that I tell graduates all the time.
Yeah, I would also say never burn a bridge.
Absolutely.
Of your former employer to your new employer, because in the news business, people move and go to different stations, just like you would move and go to different stations all the time. So you never know who you're going to encounter down the road.
Right.
So don't, say, man, F you guys, and, blow a stink as you're leaving a place, because you're going to ask them for references. You might ask them, hey, do you have a job back at the station? I'd like to come back, and you never know what's going to happen from the day you leave to the next job you get, or even the one after that. So I would say never burn a bridge, because that'll come back to bite you in the butt at some point down the line.
Absolutely. Great advice on that. I want to ask you about Toledo, where you're at now. I love traveling. I love going to different places. Now, I've been to Columbus. I've been to Cleveland, Ohio. I've been to those two places. Columbus, obviously, is where the Ohio State University is. I went to the football game at the Horseshoe. Cleveland. I went there on a mega bus a while ago, which is a heck of a story. But I'll definitely talk to you offline about that one. But tell me about Toledo and give me three things to do. If I touch down in Toledo, what should I do?
You should go to the original Tony Paco's. I would say either take in a Mud Hens or a Walleye game.
Okay.
Or man, our downtown scene is really happen. We've got the Heights restaurant, which is a beautiful restaurant that's on the top of this building in downtown Toledo. And the rooftop bar is just completely glass. So you can see the Toledo skyline, you can see everything. And that is really cool. And they've got great drinks and great food and real fun atmosphere. There's all kinds of bars downtown that you can experience.
Okay.
Anything that you want to do in Toledo, you're like half an hour to 20 minutes away from whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to go to Perrysburg or you want to go to Maumee or you want to go to Rossford, you're 15, 20 minutes, half an hour away. So the world is your oyster at that point. Everything is within driving distance.
I like that. I really do. And definitely, once I do touch down in Toledo, I definitely got to hit you up for sure. There's no question on that.
For sure.
There's no doubt. Now, my last question, I always ask, now you got to name two people, Megan, two people that you think will be pretty cool to talk to on this podcast and get to know their story a little bit. Who would you say is two more people that comes in your mind that would be like, wow, that'd be an interesting conversation?
I would say find a news director. Find a news director and see what they're looking for, what they want from their employees, what culture they offer in their newsroom, because you'll learn a lot by the culture in the newsroom.
Okay.
So I would say talk to a news director, and I would say talk to a seasoned photojournalist, someone who's been in the business for a while, has talked to anyone and everyone under the sun, and see what stories have impacted them the most. Because I used to work overnights at WTOL when I first started producing. I went from our Fox morning shows to our weekend morning overnight position.
Okay.
And I would send out, I had a photographer, her name was Maya. And she's this short little girl, real skinny, mama three. And I would tell her, hey, Maya, there's a shooting in central Toledo. Can you go check it out? Here's the cross streets. And I would tell her, and I don't think she kind of realized this until she started working on the weekends with me. You are my eyes and my ears out there. So you are the person that's out there witnessing what's going on. So if you don't feel safe, if something feels off, no one can tell you that but you. So you need to be wary of your surroundings. You need to be mindful of what's going on. And if you don't feel safe, you get out of there and you call me and you say, hey, this happened. I didn't feel safe. I didn't, whatever the case may be, because your life is more important to me than some news story. And I don't think she had understood the value of like her life as opposed to the value of a news story until I told her, you're my eyes and my ears. So you need to tell me what's going on. So that way we make sure we get the information we need and we want, and everybody stays safe.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. Okay. I like that. I do. Now, do you have two people that you know on LinkedIn that would love to be a part of this podcast that you know?
I would have to look at who I follow on LinkedIn and maybe put you in touch with them.
I like that. I like that. Definitely give me two different people if you can. You can shoot that over in obviously a DM This has been a pretty cool podcast. Learning about you, growing up in Michigan, going to Macomb Community College longer than what you said you would, but you got 2 associate degrees. You got a bachelor's degree. You've been at Wtol 11 and Fox 36 for the past 6 years, but you've worked your way up, rightfully so, through your work ethic. Been producing the 5 o'clock show, which is amazing. You are a messy chicken wings eater. You like KFC. Terrible at bowling, but that's okay. That's all right. We've learned some things about you. We can't have it all, man. We just can't have it all. So I get it. I totally understand. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. As I always do, I ask, is there anything else you want to add before we conclude?
I think I've covered pretty much everything. You asked a lot of good questions.
I appreciate that, Megan. I really do. I try to ask some very good, knowledgeable, informational questions, but also get to know you as well. Like I said, it's been a pleasure. And I look forward to talking to you down the road. You take care and enjoy the rest of your hump day.
Thank you.
You take care now.
Bye.
Bye. Come on now.